Unscripted, unfiltered, unafraid. Welcome to the Macworld Podcast. My name is Michael Simon, and I am joined by Jason Cross.
Good morning.
And our producer, Roman Loyola.
Ahoy there.
Today is episode number 967. And on this show, we're going to talk all about the MacBook. Current stuff, past stuff, future stuff. We talked a little bit about it the last 2 weeks, I guess, because we previewed 2026. But now we're just going to talk about like the general like state of the MacBook, where we're at, how we got here, and what's coming, because it could be a like every other thing Apple sells, a pretty big year for the for the MacBook.
MacBook and Mac in general. Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you listen to the last two shows, there's a lot happening. But early part of the year, we don't really get much new stuff, so we're gonna probably dedicate a couple of shows to just a general discussion about these individual products. After that, we're going to do a new segment called Rumor Reality Check. Then we're going to have This Week in Apple History, and we will close with our reader inbox mailbag stuff. To be part of that, you can contact us at Blue Sky, Facebook, or Threads. Search for Macworld and look for the blue mouse logo. Send an email to podcast@macworld.com. Reply under a TikTok or a Facebook post or a Threads post or wherever you see us. We'll find it, and we'll collect them in a future show, and we'll talk about them. Okay. Give me a couple minutes, Roman, although this is actually Apple-related, so I don't think people will get mad at me if we go over 3 minutes. But yesterday was a holiday for us in the U.S., but David Price in the U.K. posted a story that I just thought was super interesting. So there's a Airbnb. Airbnb hired a chief technology officer by the name of Ahmad Al-Dale, which is, generally not something we would care about at Macworld. But as part of his bio, he writes, and it's, so he used to work at Apple, which is also, interesting, but not something we would care about. But it specifically says, in 2014, Ahmad created and led Apple's autonomous technology group responsible for developing the core AI systems for the company's self-driving car project. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's super interesting because as far as we know, the self-driving car project doesn't exist. And, we had heard rumors that it existed. It's like Area 51. Like everyone kind of thinks it exists, but Apple's never confirmed it. And I find it interesting that somebody who would work at Apple clearly was under an NDA of some sort, would just put that in his bio. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just something that you do, but I wouldn't.
There's been a couple other less prominent sort of LinkedIn posts and stuff where somebody mentioned in their bio that they worked on the Apple car or whatever. Mm-hmm. And of course, I can't remember what the name of the group that they were under.
Project Titan for a while, I think.
Right. But that's not something that Apple put.
Right.
Apple didn't have like Project Titan. It was like Advanced Technology Group or some kind of thing like that. But like they were under that umbrella, and they hired up like 5,000 people over that multi-year stretch.
It was a big group.
Yeah, clearly it existed and everything was working on it and stuff. But anytime anyone would ask an Apple exec about it, they would say, "Oh, we don't talk about upcoming anything."
Right. We were actually just talking, Jason, right before the show about Tesla's FSD stuff because they're changing the way that works. And Jason has a Tesla. We were talking about that stuff, and there's really no other company right now that does it like Tesla does. They were the first.
Not in North America, no.
Right,
we can't get the Chinese cars that are doing this stuff. But
so I wonder, like, just out of curiosity, how far along Apple got on the self-driving car project? Like, what kind of proof of concept did they get to, if anything? Because they worked on it for a couple of years.
My guess is that they were a ways off because back it ended like in 2021. Sort of officially, I think. And sort of back then and the 5 years before that, what everyone was doing was this rules-based system where they use convolutional neural networks and stuff like that to have all these cameras and sensors look at the world and make a 3D map of your surrounding environment with like vectors of where everyone's going. And then you would have this complex set of rules for like, okay, where do I drive? What's safe? What should my controls be? And that just doesn't scale to the real world and the millions of wacky variables that could happen right on the real roads of the world, which is what Tesla found out. It's what NVIDIA found out. They just announced at CES their new self-driving software and hardware stack that is going to come first to some Mercedes, but it's going to come to a bunch of different cars. And the way all those work is you can never keep up with all that. So it's more like an LLM for driving instead of a large language model. It's like a large driving model, and it just takes sensor input in and controls out. And it doesn't build a virtual model of your surroundings and then have all this like rules list and if then stuff from programmers about what to do. It doesn't have any of that. It's kind of a black box in a way, but it also handles anything. And that's kind of proven to be what's necessary to just get it to not be something where you have to continuously go, whoops, it's doing something dumb, like, and take over. So we'll see. I guess they did that.
Yeah, I'm saying you don't think back then Apple would have had any idea that was the future of what does FSD stand for? Full service driving? Is that what
full self-driving?
Full self-driving. Oh, that makes more sense.
which is what the state of California has said. That and their autopilot brand have said is misleading. Anyway, I really back then nobody had really gotten to that. They were just sort of
even Tesla wasn't doing that back then.
Yeah, I think that's right around the time where they got this concept that like we should switch directions completely, and they had to completely retrain everything on all their data and all that other kind of stuff. So maybe Apple was, if they were ahead of them, they were still several years away from like shipping something that could do any of that. So we'll see. But I don't know. On the other hand, Waymo's been driving around for a while, so but in very fixed areas that have extremely detailed LiDAR maps stored and all this other kind of stuff. So I don't know what approach Apple was taking. I do know that they have said before that a lot of the work that they did for the self-driving car project found its way into other things. Like a lot of what the Photos app does to see and recognize objects in your photos and all that stuff comes from work that they did in the car vision stuff, right? As an example. So
so anyway, interesting stuff. Just basically confirmation that the project existed, and I don't think we'll ever see anything like tangible related to a vehicle, but maybe at some point down the road. There were talks of like they had prototypes of a car and a bus, and they had people, cars driving around campus to bring employees. Like that never, none of that ever happened.
No, I want somebody to leak the last sort of concept drawings, the last or
those
CAD
ones,
diagrams.
I think it was Business Insider made one. They were the ugliest things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like
but that's just them making them up. That's not what Apple had. So I want to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting because, like the Teslas are nice, like it's a really nice car. Like when you see it driving around, and it would be interesting to see what Apple would do.
Everything but the Cybertruck.
I hate that thing. Yeah. Right. There's not as many of those. I've seen one or two, but like the Model Y, the Model
X, looks like a car. The latest Hyundais and stuff, they all kind of look like that, Right. They all kind of look the same now. Everything has a light bar in the front.
Yeah, we kind of got used to like not having a grill, but it looks cool. Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see like what I assume Johnny Ive maybe worked on some of it. Like who knows, but it would have been fun to see. Alas. All right, on to things that we can see. How's that for a transition, Roman? The MacBook. So Apple doesn't give out numbers, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's the second highest product that Apple makes behind the iPhone, right? I think that's probably safe to say.
I would say if you don't count accessories, like AirPods and maybe Apple Watch.
Sell more, maybe per year. Maybe?
AirPods definitely sell more than MacBooks for sure, but Apple Watch maybe. But like a core product, like an iPad, or
right, like that's what I was comparing.
Like that.
Right, like iPad.
Yeah, I would say that's
Apple
probably
sells like 8-ish billion a quarter, around, depending on the quarter, and you got to assume MacBooks are 75% of that, maybe. Like I said, Apple doesn't give out numbers, but it's got to be heavily skewed towards MacBooks. A couple iMacs here and there, Mac Mini, but mostly MacBook. So 20 years ago, we just talked about this last week. Alex Blake wrote an article about it right when the anniversary happened. But at Macworld San Francisco in 2006, Apple released the first MacBook Pro, which was the first branded MacBook. Before that, we had PowerBooks. It's essentially the same thing. They looked very similar, but they called them. They renamed it the MacBook.
Well, but that was also the change from the PowerPC architecture to the Intel architecture.
Right. Intel.
So yeah, out with PowerBook, in with MacBook.
Did either of you have? Well, I'm sure we tested it. I wasn't working for Macworld at the time, but did either of you have the original MacBook? You didn't have one, Roman?
I may have been involved in testing it, but I didn't. I don't think I actually had one.
So
all right, so you stuck. Okay.
I don't think I don't. Yeah.
I assumed.
So I didn't review it. In other words, I didn't review it, so I was lower on the totem pole at that time. So.
I got you. They weren't all that different than the PowerBook. They even looked the same. Mm-hmm. So the first one that came out was a 15 inch, I believe. Yeah, 15 inch, and they were laptops. Laptops haven't changed much in 20 years, really, 30 years probably.
Especially Macs. Yeah.
The it was faster, but not nearly the speed that we saw with Apple Silicon, 15 years later. They were a little bit faster than the PowerPC, but the switch to Intel, I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering it, but it wasn't like this big, oh my God, moment. It opened up a better roadmap, but the speeds were, it was a marginal increase over the.
It was definitely a lot better in a lot of ways, but it wasn't. Number one, Macs in general just were a lot less popular. It impacted a lot fewer people. So it just wasn't the news that it is now. But also, it just wasn't as smooth as the transition to Apple Silicon. There was a lot more, this app doesn't work on the Intel, or you need a specific Intel thing. The translation software didn't always work well or right. By comparison, the transition to Apple Silicon was so smooth. It was so not bumpy at all. But performance-wise, it was fine. What it really allowed them to do was get to the next step where they started doing things like MacBook Air, which they never would have gotten. They never could have done that with a PowerPC processor.
It was just too.
There was nothing on the roadmap from them that could have. Yeah.
So speaking of new designs, so after we got the MacBook Pro, which was a deal, but not like a huge deal. In May of the same year, 2006, we got the MacBook, and I didn't remember this. I found this. I discovered this during my research. That was not announced at an event. It just popped up one day on Apple.com. It was rumored. It was heavily rumored that. So we had the PowerPC had the iBook, and it was known in the rumor circles that Apple was creating a MacBook because we had the MacBook Pro. So the iBook was going to be replaced with the Intel version called just the plain MacBook. But it didn't have an event. And it was a significant redesign over the iBook. So that was in May. And Rome, did you test that one? Did you rise the totem pole by May?
No, I still did not. Yeah, I think I looked at the second generation MacBook.
Okay,
but
I'll
not
get
the
back
first
to you in
one.
5 minutes. Jason, did you have one? Did you test?
Oh no, I wasn't even doing Mac stuff at all.
So you were
back
still
then.
on PC.
I was still doing PCs. I was doing like enthusiast PC, build your own PC enthusiast stuff back then was where I was.
So the MacBook, it had a 1.83 gigahertz Core. Hold on, I got to scroll all the way up here. Core Duo, which was Intel's low end processor at the time, and was kind of like the precursor to the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air didn't come out until 2008, but the MacBook. So I didn't have one, but my brother did, because he wanted just a little simple thing that he can carry around. It was light, and he could go to like the beach and like stuff, and it was perfect for that because it was, it was a full featured laptop. It just didn't have it. It started at $10.99, which at the time was pretty inexpensive, and it was a good machine. It was just a little. I guess it wasn't even underpowered. It was a solid value.
Yeah, it was I mean, they were kind of slightly underpowered compared to like if you looked at a ThinkBook or something on the Windows side. They weren't. You were paying quote the Apple tax for things like it was, but no, it was a fine, by all accounts, a fine thing. And like a lot of Apple products back then, the second version's better. Like that was like fixes a lot of problems. That was the big thing with the MacBook Air. Like everyone was super impressed by the size, but it was like really slow and had a lot of limitations in this. The first big update to the MacBook Air, the second generation MacBook Air was like way better. And they started selling like hotcakes, and I think that was similar in all the MacBooks when they were new, like the first version. So it was a little underpowered. There's a box here or there that it didn't tick, and then they do a refresh in a year or two and it's way better.
Yep. So it came in white and black, and the rub at the time was you can only get the black one. It started at $1,500. You couldn't. So there wasn't a $10.99 version of the black one,
right?
And it had the same specs as the $12.99 white model, but you had to pay $200 more for it to become black, which is that's just typical Apple. That's they knew everybody would want the black one, so they charged a little bit more for it. But it was a solid entry-ish level laptop. It replaced the iBook and had a similar price point and a similar target audience, and it was good. Like I said, I didn't have one, but if that came out today, I mean, it essentially is like the MacBook Air of today is essentially this. It's a little cheaper, but it's basically what this is.
Right. Which brings us to, I mean, like you said, we at the anniversary we kind of went over the history like that. But how does that bring us to this year? Like what's going on this year that is the hot MacBook story of this year?
Well,
is
hold
it
on.
the
I want
cheap
to
one?
Give me like 3 more minutes to get to the rest of all this, and then we'll get to this year. All right. So the MacBook Air came out in 2008. That was at Macworld San Francisco. Everybody remembers the moment where Steve Jobs slid it out of the interoffice envelope thing. Yeah. That was as Jason said, like it was $1,800 when it came out. It was very expensive. for the price, severely underpowered. But man, it was one of those things that everybody wanted because it was super thin, super light. You know, it had that wedge design. So when it closed, it was, you know, like I don't know, 0.5 millimeter thick or whatever it was, and really changed the game as far as design goes. Before, you know, we had like Ethernet ports and, you know, things like this, like if there was that little door in the side, you had to open up to get to the very few ports that it had. And it was a game changer completely and totally for design, for just the direction that laptops were going in. That you know, is one of those Apple products that, you know, really made its mark.
Like I said, I was covering sort of PC stuff at the time, and I think by the time that came out, I was doing a laptop stuff for PC World. But that was the entire, like, everyone started to copy that, and to the point where it sprung up an entire category of laptops. Yeah, for Windows laptops that they called ultra portables, which was their code name for a MacBook Air clone. Right. Right. Like, how do we make it super skinny? Like, basically, they fits in a manila envelope thing. And there was an entire line of Intel chips, like, for those laptops and everything. Like, every website you went to see like laptop reviews and stuff, it was a category you had to have. Like, there's, and that really all started when Steve Jobs pulled that out of that envelope, and everybody said, "I want that." Like, you know, I don't use Macs, but I want that.
Exactly right. Yeah, it changed everyone's thinking about what a laptop really should be, could be.
Right.
From then on. So after that, okay, I'm almost done. In March of 2015, at the Spring Forward event. So Roman, you were definitely testing by this point. The MacBook, the Retina MacBook came out. Confusing because they already had a MacBook, but this was a new MacBook. It was 12 inches. It was super thin, and it had one single USB-C port. Yeah, and all sorts of arguments and conversations about whether what it was. But it was also one of those watershed kind of moments for the MacBook where it. You know, a lot of the design that we have today stems from that ultra thin design. You know, it was impractical and it was overpriced and all that stuff, but it was, you know, it really showed the direction that Apple wanted to take its computers. And then we got the Apple Silicon transition. What's that? 5 years later. So like that MacBook. I have to assume there was a meeting in Apple and like they wanted to do whatever they wanted to do with it, and they just were stymied by the processor. So they had to choose this Core M, very underpowered, very, you know, with because it didn't have a fan, it didn't have a lot of, you know, it had to keep its performance high without using too much heat, and that's where Apple Silicon just completely changed the game as far as what they could do with those designs.
Yeah, I don't think
that's my intro.
I don't think that version of the MacBook, the one they just called MacBook, that was 12 inches and had the one USB-C port, I don't think it sold very well. They scrapped that after a couple of years, and it was pretty soundly panned by a lot of people because it used a particular version of the Intel processor, the Y variant of the Intel processor, that was very slow. Very sluggish. It actually felt sluggish as you were using macOS on it and stuff. I remember I was working at PC World, but I remember it was a Core M, but the model number would be like 8350Y, and it has like a Y at the end, and that's like a 5 watt, like super low end, like Intel chips at that wattage were not good. They had other things like the one port was a problem because you charged it that way.
Right.
So it's like if it was plugged in so that it had not great battery life because it was small and the battery wasn't big. So like if you plugged in the thing to charge it, you couldn't plug in anything else. Right. So yeah, there was little bit of that between all that and the price of it. I think they just kind of, and it only got you an inch over just like a MacBook Air. just a 13-inch MacBook Air was just not that much bigger.
Right. It was. Yeah. So the keyboard was shrunk and the bezels were shrunk, but it wasn't significantly smaller than an Air.
So I think everybody just stuck with the Air. I remember being at PC World and the Macworld folks getting that in, being in the labs when they're testing it, and we ran some comparisons and stuff like that. That was an interesting time. But I think you could get it in champagne or rose gold or something, right?
That was
the thing.
Gold, silver, space gray. It was the first laptops available in anything other than silver. I think maybe space gray was a thing, but definitely not gold
or black. They had, like you said, they had the more expensive black version of way back when. But gold was brand new. Yeah.
So again, just another step toward now. And then in 2020, 2021, 2020 was the MacBook Air and the 13-inch PowerBook MacBook. And then in 2021, we got the 15, the high end, the 14 and the, was there was the 14 came, 14, 16, I don't know. Whatever it was the Apple Silicon MacBook Pro. And we got new designs with a notch, and that's what that's what we have now. Which brings us to 2026. And so it's been 5 years, which is, kind of a long time to have one design in tech land. I mean, the iPhone changes every year. So the rumors are that this is going to be a year where we get MacBook Pro redesigns and possibly a new lower end MacBook that slides in under the MacBook Air, basically bringing back the MacBook that we just talked about.
Yeah, and there's always been the speculation what will they call it? Will this just be MacBook? And bring that back, or will they take that branding that they've started to do with the iPhone? Which kind of doesn't work since they don't number MacBooks.
There's no numbers,
right? But
it'd be funny if they numbered them and we were on like MacBook 83 or something. Whatever it would be.
Yeah. So the first of those that is supposed to land is supposed to be this inexpensive MacBook, right? Or at least around the same time as updated MacBook Pros, but not the redesigned MacBook Pros. MacBook Pros with the M5 Pro and Max processors, but still what we have today, right?
Right.
We have an M5 MacBook Pro 14-inch. But we don't have the M5 Pro. We don't have the 16-inch, which doesn't have a regular M series chip. It has only Pro and Max chips, right? So that's not out.
Right. Right.
Those are
so that's all coming. So I think we're going to get the MacBook Pro first. The Max and the Pro chips. We could get them next week. Roman speculated about that earlier. No, that was last week. So the Apple Creator Studio that was just announced, that comes out next Wednesday. And it's odd that it was previewed and then doesn't ship for 2 more weeks, and it's on a Wednesday. So it's possible Apple comes out with those new MacBook Pros to go along with this new Creator Pro suite of apps that it's going to begin shipping next week.
Yeah,
but
Apple has often...
within the next month and a half, I think that's probably going to come.
Apple has often announced some new version of Logic or Final Cut or something like that. And when they do that, when the announcement goes out, the software is basically available, or it's that day. The update comes right out.
Right. Because it's nothing new.
Right. This is an update to those things. This is an update to those apps for the most part, but it's also just a new way to buy them. It's just subscribing instead of purchasing them. So why does it need a 2-week lead time?
Right.
And why would the release date be a Wednesday? So our thought is, I bet that Wednesday they update the website and they've got the new M5 Pro and Max versions of the MacBook Pro. That would make sense. The question is, when does this new A series processor powered MacBook, inexpensive MacBook, when does that drop? Does that drop at the same time? Does it come in a spring event? Are they saving that for later?
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, it would seem to be event worthy based on what we're hearing about it.
Yeah, maybe.
Like it's a new, if it is indeed powered by an iPhone chip, that would be the first Mac that isn't powered by a so-called desktop class processor.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. It would be, so if you look at, I was looking at the press release for it. So this is when the all new MacBook, which was the 12-inch MacBook. This is from March 2015, and it says, the notebook reinvented. Apple today unveiled the all-new MacBook, a new line of notebooks reinvented in every way to deliver the thinnest and lightest Macs ever. Every component of the new MacBook has been meticulously redesigned to create a Mac that weighs just 2 pounds and is 13.1 millimeter thin. Like that could just be ripped out of that and put into the new press release.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's basically what they're doing. So that's why I wanted to go through that history, because like that MacBook that, as Jason said, didn't sell well and universally panned.
And part of it is the price, and that's what, to me, regardless of what is in the thing, what is interesting about this new MacBook is that it is being designed from the get-go to be a less expensive Mac than the MacBook Air. And that's kind of been the floor for Macs is $1,000, right?
$1,000, yeah.
And so to come in any significant amount under that, let's say $800, $700. I mean, if it's $699, if it's like $700, they sell a lot of these. Like, and that's, to me, that's big because you kind of, like, Macs have kind of hit their ceiling. Like there's the people who use Macs, they rebuy Macs and stuff like that. They don't gain a lot of market share over time. It's maybe it slowly creeps a little bit in some direction or something. Apple does all this stuff to try and make Mac OS look more like iOS so that people who have iPhones will want to use Macs, and they talk about the ways they work together, and they do. But a lot of people, that just doesn't move the needle. And it's because they don't want to spend $1,000 or more on a laptop when they go into Best Buy and there's a whole shelf full of things that are like $699 or less. And they're like, I'm buying that. So if Apple can start to be in that pool, that is massive. That is a huge, huge deal.
Yeah. So the 12-inch MacBook started at $1,299. You can help me out here, Jason. The specs were a 1.1 gig dual core Intel Core M processor with 8 gigabytes of memory and 256 gigabytes of flash storage, and Intel HD graphics 5300. Like that's pretty low end for 20.
Yeah, it's a good amount of storage, but like for the time. But it was But the point is that it starts at $1,300, and that's not what people wanted to buy. People wanted to buy back then. $500 laptops was the thing. Everybody was racing to make the cheapest, crappiest laptop possible. Like that was the Windows world was like, and there were a lot of them that were really bad. But just to try and get under that like $500 ceiling. And people were buying those by the droves. So to spend more than twice as much, even if it was slick.
It was a cool looking, really, as Jason says, slick laptop. But if it was $999, I think Apple would have sold a lot more of them than $1,299. Particularly when you had the MacBook Air and you had the MacBook, and they were all. Well,
that was the thing. You just get the MacBook Air, and you can charge it and use your USB port at the same time, and it's not that much bigger. Right. So to me, that's what's.
In 2015, USB-C wasn't really what it is now. Like people didn't really understand what, it was obviously they knew what USB was, but people had USB-A with the rectangle things and they put them in and twist them in term. Like USB-C was like, what is this? And,
every mouse you wanted to plug in was USB-A. Every thumb drive, everyone had thumb drives. Nobody had a USB-C thumb drive. And they're like, what? Now we need it's got one port. I need a dongle and I can't charge it and use my dongle at the same time. This is ridiculous.
Right.
Apple doesn't have that problem with even MacBook Airs and stuff today. I'm very curious what they're going to do for ports on the new one. I think probably 2 USB ports, but my question is, will they have the MagSafe charging port that they have on the Airs, or will it just be USB-C charging? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the MacBook Air currently, hold on, has, where am I? That's the wrong one.
It's just the two USB-C
does
ports.
it has two USB-C, not three?
It has two and a headphone jack on the other side, but it has a separate charging port.
Charging, right.
That they call MagSafe, even though it's not like MagSafe. Like they have two MagSafes that are not at all the same. But so you can charge it and have two ports, and that's fine. That for what that laptop is, that's what they're. So I'm curious what the new one will do, because they'll be pinching pennies to get the cost down. I don't know.
You would think, because the iPhone has MagSafe, they would want this thing to have MagSafe too, so they can at least talk about the correlation, because this is clearly sold to iPhone users.
Right.
You would think.
But it's a completely different MagSafe.
It's a completely different MagSafe. I mean, it's still magnets and charging, but yeah, it's totally different.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think two USB-C ports would be the way to go there. Probably very similar to the MacBook Air. Mm-hmm. It'll have two USB-C, a headphone jack, probably maybe, and MagSafe. I would hope.
Well, probably not any kind of Thunderbolt support. No faster, higher performance. Just pretty basic USB-C, which is for that laptop for that price, that'd be fine. We'll see what the display is and all that stuff, but that is.
Yeah, you think they'll go smaller than 13? So
no, I think it'll be around. I think it'll be around 13, and all the rumors say around 13, but smaller than a MacBook Air, which is like 13.6 or something like that. So it'll be like 13.3 or 13.
That was so the old 13. MacBook Air was 13.3. When they came out with the skinnier bezels, they increased it to 13.6.
Yeah,
so they could go down a little bit.
So I think that they're supposed to go down a little bit. Yeah,
it would be the first new MacBook in a long time. Mm-hmm. Really, since the one we're talking about, that 2015, like
both the first new MacBook, both the first new MacBook in a long time, and the first MacBook ever, really designed to be like significantly cheaper than $1,000,
right?
Which just is an entirely different market that Apple has never played in with the Macs. You could kind of say a Mac Mini is cheap, but it's like, but then you need a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor and a blah, 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 and now you're back over $1,000 again.
Right. So, I think that'll probably be its own event. It'll probably be either between March and May, depending on when Apple wants to do its spring event. And then, Roman, your M6 OLED touchscreen MacBook Pro, also a 20th anniversary. So that MacBook, it's not quite 20th. It came out in 2015, 21 years ago. The MacBook Pro is 20 years ago. So we're
11 years ago. 2015 was 11
years ago. That's exactly what I mean, Jason. Yes, I mean 11 years ago. So the iPhone is supposed to get a 20th anniversary next year. This year could be the MacBook Pro's 20th anniversary edition. And Roman, I know, is this the one this is the one you want to buy, right?
So this is supposed to be the M6 based.
Yes.
With an OLED display. I said OLED.
OLED, come on now.
And it's supposed to be touchscreen, and it's supposed to have a new, thinner, slimmer design.
Right.
So the touchscreen is, of course, still going to be the feature that everyone's going to talk about.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, because it's a big deal. We talked about this in the past podcast about how Apple it's gone against Apple's philosophy about touchscreens on Macs. So
the touchscreen, all of that we've talked about previously. How Apple has said for years, it's not ergonomically good. But what I think is odd, if this is true, is why would they put the touchscreen in the Pro model and not the cheap iPhone model? Like, I know there's a cost. Let's forget about cost for a second.
Yeah, I was about to say money
and talk about audience. Right. Yeah. So let's just talk about audience. The kind of person who buys a MacBook Pro and spends $2,000 to $3,000 on a laptop isn't the kind of person that's going to want a whole new interface based around touch. I don't think.
Oh, I don't think we're going to get a whole new interface based around touch. I think
or
we're
even
getting interface modifications that make it better with touch. But I don't think. I think touch is the red herring here. I don't think it's. I think yes, touch digitizer and they'll do some things, but I think it's really about Apple Pencil.
Oh, all right. I like that.
Right, and now it makes more sense that it's the Pro thing, and it's expensive because pros need to. That gives you that precision. It lets you draw on the screen and not. I was going to say Photoshop, but it'll all be all about Pixelmator and Creative Studio, right? So, like, yes, the ability to that would be the killer kind of thing for me. Is that not that they just finally add touch to a MacBook, but if they add pencil support to a MacBook.
So, do you think
Pro.
It would flip? Like do like the 180 flip thing, and then you can just kind of write on it like you would an iPad.
Good question. I have no idea. Roman, you think they're going to do that hinge where you can flip it all the way back?
I don't think so. That would be. It doesn't seem like that would work on a MacBook because you would have the keyboard essentially on the back, and then when you flipped it over, the keyboard would smash against the table.
That's exactly what a lot of the Windows ones do. They just basically make it so that the keys don't work once it's flipped back, so you don't accidentally hit stuff.
But that just doesn't feel like an Apple solution.
I agree.
Do
you know what I mean?
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I mean,
but if you're writing like this on a screen, that doesn't feel like an Apple solution either.
Yeah,
but I like the idea of the Apple Pencil being the thing that they want the MacBook to use. I've always wondered why they didn't build Apple Pencil support into the touchpad for its MacBook Pro, so you can at least like use it as like a writing like a notepad or something. Sign my document right
there. You know. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jason's onto something here because I find it hard to get excited about the idea that, I can now tap my screen so I can open my hard drive.
I agree. Yeah. Especially since we've been told for years that it sucks. Why now do I want to use it?
The only thing on touchscreen laptops, the only thing I end up using touch for is to scroll web pages. Because you kind of put your hand around the screen like you're adjusting it, and you just flick it with your thumb to kind of scroll up and down, and that feels very natural. And that's kind of the only thing. All the pinch to zoom and all the other kind of stuff that's going on, I never do that. I just use the trackpad. It doesn't seem better or easier. So it's like all that just to scroll web pages and social media sites or whatever.
Like, the gestures on the trackpad work really well.
Yeah.
Like I'll pinch stuff and it's great.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I think I said last time when I think it was at the last podcast. It was, maybe it was the last podcast because we were talking about the 2026 releases, and that it felt like an idea that, that they kind of hit the bottom of the well of ideas. And touchpad was just sitting there, a piece of paper that says touchpad on it or touchscreen on it. And it's just flapping it. Pick me.
We still got this one. Yeah.
We'll do this one. So I hope Apple does something more with it than just simply implement it. If Jason's onto something there, it feels like they need to do something more than just simply say, and now you have a touchscreen.
Yeah. Right.
So,
especially like if you said it's the audience is the pros, the people who spend all that money, but they aim that at creative professionals who do video editing and do kind of Photoshop type work, like a lot of digital artwork, and having sort of pressure sensitive tips for just like they do on iPads to be able to do brushstroke things. It's like that, or to do really precision editing and stuff without having to have a mouse over there. You've got this little, watch they make a little magnet on the side. It's redesigned so you can charge your Apple Pencil cool. and link it. And now all of a sudden it sounds like a really awesome product to me. Before I was just thinking, they're making it thinner. And I mean, OLED's nice, but why am I doing this? But now, all of a sudden, it sounds like maybe a different product.
Yeah, and now we're talking about does the iPad Pro have a reason to exist anymore? If it does, if the MacBook does do all this stuff, what's the point?
That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, that is.
Well, we got a lot of space to fill before these things come out.
All that
we'll
stuff.
Do the state of the iPad at some point.
All that stuff would be released in like September, October, probably October, with on the heels of the OS 27 updates, Mac OS 27. So we might start to get hints when we see what Mac OS 27 looks like at WWDC. We might see things that make it obvious to us, like, oh, look, they're really trying to space out touch targets, like, or they're making like sliders are fatter now. Gee, I wonder why that is. It's because you're going to use them with your finger. All that kind of stuff might give us a hint that they're really moving in that direction if we see it.
Yep. So, all right, M5 Pro Max, MacBook Pros, some iPhone chip powered MacBook, M5 MacBook Airs at some point, but that's going to be, just a minor refresh by all accounts.
Yeah, that's a press release and a website update. And
then possibly in the fall, a brand new touchscreen OLED MacBook Pro. I mean, that's a massive overhaul for Apple's laptop line.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It seems like, so there's also any reports about the M6 MacBook Pro has always said shipping in the second half of 2026 or early 2027. There was a report last week that said that Samsung, the people who make the display, Samsung Display, is going into production with these OLED displays. So it seems like it's on track for later this year. I don't know how production works, so maybe, it feels like it'd be on track. If they're producing the displays now, the beginning of the year, it seems like they'd be ready 9 months. The laptop could be ready 9 months from now. So it seems like it's on track.
And I wonder if the M5 Pro Max MacBooks, maybe they keep them on sale. And this M6 is a higher end version of that. Maybe it's just one model.
Right.
And it's not
we
a
talked about
it's just a higher one.
Yeah. or for at least 1 year, it's just the anniversary edition or something. Right. And then everything catches up next year.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever it is, it's going to be expensive. I can tell you that much. Between that and the iPhone Fold, man, like you're going to need like 10 grand by fall to spend on Apple stuff. So start saving your money. All right. Speaking of the iPhone, let's do a new segment called Rumor Reality Check. Jason started a column many years ago, probably years ago.
Yeah, I think it's years at this point.
Yeah, it's been years. So he would look at the latest rumors and just kind of throw a little bucket of cold water or a cup of cold water, depending. Because we get these things all the time, and
there were a bunch of
5% of them aren't true.
Yeah, and there were some Looney Tunes rumors back then.
Back then. So the latest one is the dynamic island on the iPhone 18 Pro. I swear, there's a new rumor every week about what this thing's going to look like. So, Jason, I'm going to hand it off to you to talk about the two conflicting dynamic island rumors and which one you think is true.
It's not necessarily conflicting. I kind of believe this new one. Okay, so there's a account on Weibo which is the Chinese Facebook basically, called Instant Digital, that leaks a bunch of stuff and everything. And they have come out and said that hey, there's all these reports that the dynamic island is going to move to the left corner on the camera, and the dynamic island and everything are all going to move into the left corner on the iPhone 18 Pro. And that was a mistranslation on an English site, and then everybody else echoed that. That's never what we all said. We all said, no, what they're moving over there is the infrared flood illuminator and the actual infrared sensor camera and the main camera and stuff like that will be on a smaller module, but still in the center.
Right.
And and so the dynamic island will shrink, or that hole that the pill shaped cutout will shrink, but it'll still be in the middle, and the infrared flood illuminator will be on the left and under the display, because that's not something that's the easiest thing to work as an under display thing. It doesn't take photos of things. It just blasts your face with an infrared dot pattern, right? And after that report came out, and they included what looks like a mock-up of what the true depth module looks like, and it's got like a little ribbon cable going to the little infrared flood illuminator, and the camera's still in the middle. And then since then, that Shrimp Apple Pro X account that has leaked some stuff came out and said, yeah, nope, they're totally right. That's what it is. Right. And Ross Young, who we know from Display DSCC, the display something supply
chain consultants.
Yeah. He came out and said, yep, nope, that's what it is. And that makes more sense to me too. So I think this was apparently an issue of mistranslation and misunderstanding. And that influenced both the information report earlier and other reports where they've said this. It's that kind of game of telephone with rumors.
Right. The information appears as though they're completely wrong, and they're usually pretty accurate. It's surprising that they would publish something that isn't right, but it does appear. And also, just personally, left aligned cameras are ugly. Like there's a bunch of Android phones that did it and still do. They just don't look right. So it would be odd for Apple to keep the selfie cam but move it to the left side for no reason other than to hide some component. It just doesn't make sense. Especially when you have the dynamic island, you have these interface elements that grow and shrink and are touchable and stuff like that. Now they've got to be over to the side. Right. So they only grow out. They only go out in one direction instead of none of that really kind of made sense to me. But I always thought, hey, we'll see what Apple comes up with. Right. We always, so this does make more sense, but it also makes less sense. Like if the flood illuminator's under the display, why shove it all the way in the corner? Like why not just also have it in the middle? You would still have a smaller pill because it's still under the display. The cutout part would still be small. Why would you even have a ribbon cable and go over there? So there may be some other internal components that need to be near the middle that they're making room for or something. The whole thing seems a little weird to me. I want to see what the teardown is. Sure. But yeah, so as of now, don't expect the dynamic island to be in the left. Expect it to be in the center, but possibly smaller, at least when it's not in use. Right. The pill cutout part will be smaller. Right. Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, Roman. This week in Apple history is... You're on mute, sir. All right. This week in Apple history, on January 19th, 1983, the Apple Lisa was released. It was the people who are, longtime Apple fans and stuff, they know the history of the Apple Lisa, so we're not going to totally dive into it. We could talk a little bit about it. We'll talk a little bit about it. I did a dissertation on the MacBook, so we could do a little bit on Lisa. I think it's a super fascinating tale, right? Yeah. Everyone speculates that it was named after Steve Jobs' daughter, and apparently not, but it is kind of a backronym. Like it was called Lisa as a code name, and then they liked it, and then they tried to come up with a backronym for what it stands for and all that, Local Integrated Software Architecture is what it allegedly stands for. Yeah. Steve Jobs... They started with Lisa and they came up with that. Right. Yeah, probably. So he denied forever that it was named after his daughter, who he has a bit of a checkered past with. He denied that it was he denied he was her father for a while, but later in life they kind of reconciled. And the story goes, she asked him late in life, and she said, no, it's not. It wasn't because of you. And then like they were hanging out with U2 or something, and Bono asked him, and then he said that it was about her. So it's unclear whether it, but it's awfully coincidental that his daughter is named Lisa, and one of the first computers Apple came out with that he was in charge of was called Lisa.
He also told Walter Isaacson that the computer was named after his daughter. Now, as people know, Walter Isaacson wrote the biography of Steve Jobs, and that was done as Steve Jobs was dealing with cancer.
Yeah.
So who knows if that was something he thought that might be a nice thing to do as he's approaching, dealing with his sickness
even
stuff.
If it, it makes no sense that he would have, he knew at the time that there was a possibly his daughter. I don't know if the paternity test had come back. Possibly his daughter was named Lisa. Even if he didn't consciously do it, it had to affect him in some way.
Yeah.
But what fascinates me about it is the tech. This is kind of their first Mac Pro in a way, because it came out before the Macintosh, but it was the first consumer computer at all from anyone to have a full graphical user interface operating system design. It had things like memory protection and stuff that were also very new technical things at the time. But yeah, a full GUI. There were apps, there were programs you could run that did, but your whole file system and everything being a graphical user interface. This was it. This was the first one. But this thing was expensive. This thing was like $10,000.
$10,000
in $83. That's a car. That's $30,000 in today's dollars. That's insane.
Yeah.
So Steve Jobs got kicked off that project a couple of years before it came out. The board kicked him off of it. So he went over to the Mac project, which at that time, back in 81, when he got kicked off, was meant to be a less expensive text-based, like an all-in-one version of an Apple II, a text-based, whatever. And he's like, no, we're going to do what they did. He threw everything off the table and took all the Lisa stuff and just no, it's going to be a graphical user interface and all this other stuff, except we're going to do it cheap. And then 1 year after the Lisa came out, the Macintosh came out and did all that graphical user interface stuff in a slicker single box, because the Lisa's 4 boxes and it's a separate keyboard and a box on top of the monitor and all this other stuff. It was all in one thing, and it did all the graphical user interface stuff, and it cost a fraction of what the Lisa did. And of course, history remembers which one died. I think the Wikipedia page says they sold less than 68,000 Lisas in 2 years. It just never, because who's going to spend $10,000 on a personal computer?
Basically
it needs all new software and everything. It's all
the Macintosh. It was basically out of spite.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Spite.
Yeah, they kicked him off the project, and so he took everything about that project that made it special and totally changed the Macintosh project to be that.
Yeah, and it was almost a year to the day. Lisa was released on January 19th, and the Mac came out almost exactly a year later. With it cost, what was it, $24.99? The Mac, the original Macintosh.
I want to say yes. Was that it?
And
Roman, do you remember?
I don't remember. I was 14 years old at the time.
Wait, how high were you on the total?
$24.95. I think it was $24.95 was what the Wikipedia page says.
And so that was literally 75% less than Lisa.
Yeah, and Lisa still had the 5.25-inch floppies. Right. It had 2 of them integrated, but had the big floppy drives and it was more powerful. It was a very powerful computer by all accounts, but who's going to buy that when you've got the little Macintosh and it says hello to you with a little voice, and it's all in one box and it costs 1/4 of what the Lisa did. So, yeah.
But it's fascinating. When you go back in history and look at the development of these things. Like, I mean, we're joking that it was out of spite, but really, like, it takes a little bit of luck and timing for history to be made. And, you know, Steve Jobs getting kicked off the Lisa project and then going to Mac. And remember, they were like flying like pirate flags and stuff. And it was like competition between the two groups. And, you know, and then the Macintosh changed the whole entire computing world.
So the Lisa, the Computer History Museum actually has the source code for the Lisa software, and you can download it if you want.
Neat.
So I don't know what you'll do with it, but it's beyond my capability. But I'm sure somebody can figure out what to do with it. Somebody probably already has, and I just haven't looked it up. But yeah, we'll put a link to that into the description and the show notes if you want to check that out. So
there was a Lisa 2, a whole new hardware update that came out just a year later, and it slashed the price in half, and it came with one smaller floppy drive, and stuff like that. But you know, we had moved on. It was all Mac all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like there were other like the Macintosh XL, and there were other like projects that were born out of Lisa,
right? But
it was all Macintosh after that. Does anyone know, Roman? Do you know when it got shortened to Mac? Like, do we have any idea like when? That
officially,
it was Macintosh. Yeah,
right. And people would say Mac.
Sure,
right.
People would say Mac, but there, you know, I would have to look that up. But there is. You know, people have noticed that Apple doesn't call it the Macintosh anymore.
Right.
And so there has been an unofficial switch to Mac, but you know, I don't think Apple's ever come out and said it's Mac now. It's not Macintosh, but they always call it Mac, and they don't say the Mac. They always say Mac, just like
they don't say the.
iPhone.
It's not. They don't say for anything.
Right.
Yeah. For people who don't know, there's like a whole official Apple style guide, and they don't want you to use articles before their products. It's like iPhone and iPad.
It is apparently when the iMac came out. That was the first product not to have the entire word Macintosh written out.
Okay,
right. So it literally. The brand was iMac, not iMacintosh, right?
Right.
And I think that's when they started to call them all, unless they were talking about a specific product, they started to call them all Macs instead of Macintosh. Okay. And then, of course, you got MacBook, not Macintosh book, and you know whatever.
Right. Yeah. But they did the first. This is a very history-heavy episode. It was the portable Macintosh, right? The first, that big giant thing that you had in like a 12-pound briefcase. It wasn't a Mac. It was a Macintosh. All right,
they were still called Macintosh.
Stop me from talking.
And the other laptops were PowerBook. It didn't have the word Mac in it at all.
Right.
So
iBook, PowerBook. Yeah.
So I think iMac was the first product to have the actual product brand name just be Mac. Not Macintosh. Okay. And I think they started to kind of refer to them collectively as Macs at that point.
Yeah. So,
all right. This reader stuff.
So, in the Macworld mailbag, reader comments, posts, discussion, whatever. We got a lot of comments regarding the release of Apple Creator Studio, which happened last week. Just to quickly say, you know, it's Apple Creator Studio is basically the bundle of its pro apps, and it includes the iWork software. They call it iWork again. In case you didn't, they weren't calling it iWork for a long time. They do call it iWork again. The response online was quite enthusiastic. Here's just a few comments. Blind Tech on YouTube said, I hope Adobe goes bankrupt if this ends up being successful. There's a lot of Adobe hate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kool-Aid on TikTok said it's cheaper than Adobe and you can actually buy the software unlike Adobe.
Yep.
And Plancer on Instagram said, I wished everyone just sometimes didn't whine about Apple Creator Studio first, about it being a subscription model, and really do the math. It's a great plan with updates as well.
Yeah, it's $129 a year, and you get like eight or so apps, most of which are paid. If you were to buy them all separately, it's like $700. So it's a decent deal. If you use them all.
Just $12.99 a month. Like a lot of people who have a project to do and just need it for a month or two. And that's kind of how they're going to get you, because you're going to go like, oh, I can get Final Cut for just a month or two for $12.99, and then you end up trying Pixelmator because you have it.
Sure.
We should mention a couple of things that just clarifications about what's in it, because the icons you see on all the press releases and stuff, those are only for the subscription version. They have different icons. We could do a whole
show on those icons.
Oh, yes. And those have caused some consternation. People are big mad. But they're big mad about Apple's direction in icons in general, and I get that. Yeah. So there's that. And the other thing is there are a couple of features that are just for the subscription versions. Yeah. And they all involve sort of cloud content and cloud AI processing.
Like templates and stuff. Yeah.
So, well, one of it is like there's some AI stuff like auto-generating slides and stuff that happens in the cloud. And it's normal for cloud-based AI stuff to require some subscription. You're using a bunch of cloud processing, right? And then the rest of it is content. It's image and video that you can stuff into your projects. It's a big library of royalty-free images and video, and that you only get access to in the subscription version. If you purchase any of these, you get all of the regular app features, but you just don't get a few of those cloud AI features and the content. So you actually kind of get more with the subscription versions. Yeah. A little more. But a little more for now. But I bet that's going to grow over the years. There's going to be more and
the question is, how long does Apple keep the individual ones around? How often does it get updated? A lot of those questions. We don't know. There's a lot we don't know. But on the surface, if you use at least two of them, it's a good deal. I mean, Adobe charges $50 a month for its own suite, which is arguably more robust. Mm-hmm. And has been around longer. It has more, but still, like that's like if you want to use Photoshop and After Effects, it's like $50 a month, or if you $600 a year. Or something.
Just want to use Photoshop, it's $20.
Right.
So this is already $12.99 if you buy a month, and it's all the things. So, but we also have seen from literally every company in the world that they do this and then they start boiling the frog. They're like, next year it's $13.99, then it's $15.99, then it's
Look at Apple TV. I mean, that was $4.99 a month when that came out, not that long ago. So
not that long ago. And look at Disney Plus and Netflix and just every subscription. So we'll see what happens with this, and of course we'll keep you posted, because it might be a good idea when the price changes are announced but haven't taken effect yet, is when you lock in your year,
your annual,
you buy your annual and get a discount. But
one comment that I frequently saw about Creator Studio that I didn't pull out a specific one, but I saw this one a lot, is that they were wondering why Creator Studio doesn't have a competitor to Adobe Lightroom. That's kind of a big deal for a lot of people. A lot of people rely on Adobe Lightroom. A lot of people were upset when Apple discontinued its Aperture application.
Yeah, I loved Aperture.
And the one thing, odd thing, is that Apple acquired the developers who created Pixelmator, and part of that acquisition was an application called Photomator, which is kind of like Adobe Lightroom, but it's not included in the Creative Studio. Right. So it's kind of a mystery as to what's going on with that particular application, because that would seem like to be a viable alternative to Lightroom. So maybe there's some development there that we just don't know about.
I think they've also
iOS
said
27 could bring some of those features into Photos or something. I don't
know.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is to bring that stuff into Photos, and then have all of your real digital art manipulation stuff be in Pixelmator, and Photomator might just die because they're not doing. I think they said there's not going to be any more updates to Photomator's like iPhone app. Right.
Yeah,
they did say that. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Which is kind of the key that this is end of life. They're not going to do. Photomator's not going to be updated anymore at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've never used Photomator, but based on the website, it looks like it's way more robust than anything you could do in the Photos app now.
Yeah.
So it would take a significant upgrade for Apple to even slightly duplicate its features.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the kind of app you really want, and you're holding out, maybe you can hold out a little bit to see if Apple has something to say at maybe WWDC about it or something. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, so. it is strange. Like Apple does these things sometimes, and it's almost perfect, except for like this one little thing. Like it's like the app is there. Like just give it the liquid glass icon and let's go.
Yeah. Well, and that does it for the Macworld Mailbag.
Okay.
Oh, I'm curious. Did anybody reply the age-old like you will own nothing and like it? That's what everyone replies every time there's a new subscription. Although you can buy these, there's always somebody who says that.
Well, yeah, the last comment that I talked about from what was his name again? Anyway, yeah, the last comment from Plancer was basically in response to people complaining about yet another subscription plan. So yeah, there were several comments about subscription again.
Yeah.
So yeah, which I understand, but
I get it. Yeah.
But like I think we pointed out before, these apps individually cost a lot of money if you just buy them up front. So, you can still buy them, lifetime licenses from them. They cost more money. So, but in other words, these apps are available both ways. You can get a subscription. You can buy the lifetime.
For license. Now.
Just a point of clarification. So Pixelmator is what Apple said on iPhone will be discontinued. It didn't mention. It didn't say anything about Photomator, so it hasn't said it will be. So that's still possible that it will be updated and could be part of this suite at some point.
Okay.
All right. Any more history we want to go through? Are we done with this?
Mailbag. I know. Even the mailbag is a history lesson. Everything's.
Yeah.
All right. That does it for this episode of the Macworld Podcast, episode number 967. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
And thank you, Roman.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you, thanks to you, the audience, for tuning in. You can subscribe to the Macworld Podcast in the podcast app, on Spotify, on YouTube at the Macworld Podcast channel, or anywhere you listen to this stuff. Comments or questions, you can contact us through Blue Sky, through Facebook, through Threads. Search for us, look for our blue mouse logo, and comment under a video, send us an email at podcast@macworld.com. Get in touch with us in any way, and we will talk about it on a future episode. Join us in the next episode of the Macworld Podcast as we talk about everything in the... I did it again. Yes. Join us in the next episode of the Macworld Podcast as we talk about the latest. I actually tried to not read it this time, and I still screwed it up. The latest in the world of Apple. See you next time.